Jewish happiness comes in various forms. There's various words that are used to describe happiness. In the bracha, we say, Sason vesimcha, Gila, Rina, Ditza, Chedva. All those are synonyms for happiness. And that's because there's so many shades of happiness. What kind of happiness do you feel when your child is getting married? When you had a rough time with that child, and then the wedding's taking place. There's a euphoria. What do you feel when you go to a comedy show and you hear a good joke? There's a certain type of happiness there. There's so many different shades of what brings you happiness. Nachas. Nachas is an acute form of happiness. Very powerful. When you feel nachas, it's like this feeling of wow. Like, this is incredible. And your whole being fills with a real powerful energy. It's a very palpable energy. But I want to talk today about a specific type of simcha. Perhaps the one that's more important than all the other ones. And because that's the daily grind of life and the simcha that brings. And that's going to be called, the word for it will be rina. Now let's study the word rina, spelled Reish Nun Hey. In Hebrew words, if you study the etymology of the words, you discover fascinating results. So the word rina, which means happiness, is exactly the same letters as another word which has precisely the opposite meaning. The opposite meaning in every single way. And what we're going to do is make a tiny little shift in the letters, and through the smallest little shift, Ner is great, but we use Ner Ya. There's an extra Yud there. I guess if you put Rina with a Yud, it would work. I'm going to tell you a different one today. The word Rina is the opposite of the word Haran. Haran. So where was Yaakov for 20 years? In Haran. He leaves Beersheba, Vayelech Harana. He goes to Haran. Now, that place, Haran, is not for naught. It's because what does Haran mean in Hebrew? Haron Af is anger. Anger is what life is. Anger is a whole family of stress, anxiety, worry, all that stuff. That's all Haran. What's fascinating is that if you shift the letters of Haran and you make one more change, and that is you take your chet and you make a little hole on the top of it, so that it switches from a chet to a hey, then suddenly your Haran becomes a Rina. And it's not for naught that it's in the same word. It's because we're not here to learn how to cute words. The words are similar because it's a process. How are you going to shift your life from Haran to Rina? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to dig a little hole up there. You're going to leave the hole on the bottom of the chet. That one on the bottom stays, but there's a little opening over there. And that shifts a chet to a hey. And if you do that, everything in your life which was a stress, not only is not a stress, but because of the stress, you're going to experience absolute bliss. So let's try to figure out how to do that. So Yaakov goes out and he travels from everything that was beautiful and spiritual. He lived in a utopia. For a person who likes to learn, Ish Tom Yeshev Oyholim, going out into the world, to the business world, is an absolute calamity. Nothing short. And so what happened? Yaakov arrived in Haran. And what was the first thing he did in Haran when he got there? You know what the first thing he did was? He turned around and left. That's what he did. He arrived in Haran, as Rashi tells us, and then he remembers that, I passed by on the way by the place which was the Beit HaMikdash. The Holy Temple stood in Yerushalayim, which wasn't yet made, of course, but I walked past it and I didn't daven. I didn't turn to Hashem. So he quickly turned around and walked all the way back and went back to the place where he began. And he went into the Har HaMoriah and he davened. That's what happens to us all the time, every day. It's step one of how to control your Haran. So let's understand what we're doing over here. The story of the parasha is not the story of something that happened in the past, ever. Parasha is present times. So what you want to do is put yourself in the driver's seat. You're the Yaakov. You're arriving in a stress. What's the first thing you do when you feel stressed? Let's turn around and leave. Head out. Step one. You go back to your davening in the morning. And what we're going to do now is look at the whole story of how Yaakov goes down to Haran, turns around, what he does, then he comes back, then he works for, he makes a deal with Lavan, and he says, you know what, fine, I'll marry Rachel, 7 years with Rachel, and that didn't work, and then he worked another 7 years, because he got Leah, and then he had 14 years, and then he stayed another 6 years to make money, and in those 6 years, every single, think about how many times there were, in 6 years, there's how many days, give or take 2,000 days, Yaakov changed the deal on him 100 times in that time. So in 2,000 days, that means every 3 weeks, he had to open up a new business. All the time, on average. And Yaakov lived in that space, and it was harsh, it was difficult. And he describes in the end how difficult it was. He says, "Hayiti bayom achalani chorev vekerach balayla vatidad shnati meinai." At night, I had frostbite. I was so cold. And by day, I was like sizzling in the sharav, in the terrible heat. And I didn't sleep. I worked hard for you for 20 years. Life is tough. Life is a haran. Life has a lot of worries, problems, issues. But the truth is that there's no better place to find happiness. You don't need to do anything else. You just need to do what you're doing right now and look at it in a different light. And when you light that up, then the life that you're leading now changes. And that's what we're going to try to do through understanding the story of Yaakov. It's all about perspectives.
Very small thing. I called my son Shiran and ran along the road a lot about. So
Yaakov looks at the stress, number one. And imagine yourself, you're looking at this situation, whatever it is happening in your life that causes you absolute stress and worries. And the first thing you got to do is leave the scene of the crime. Go back. And what does he do? We Jews have a very powerful tool that we use. There's a guy, by the way, who wrote a book, and I got to study the book, Daniel Lappin, but he wrote a book called Thou Shalt Prosper. Someone just told me about it. I haven't read the book. I was just hearing about it. It was fascinating. Why Jews are so prosperous. And what he explains is a whole bunch of things that Jews do. For example, we go to shul. And in shul, what happens? It's a club. That's where we meet. That's where we gather together. Very practical things we do, which help us create. Imagine you don't have a shul to go to. So it's fun like a club or some sort, whatever. We have it built in. That's where you go. But there's other things, other parts to it also, which is when you allow yourself to turn to Hashem every day and you talk to God, that's going to change your life. Let's understand how. There's two parts to davening. One part is to ask Hashem for what you need. Yes, very, very important to ask Hashem for what you need. But there's an equally important part of davening, perhaps even more important, and that is, it's called dveikus. Davening is about experiencing Hashem in your life. It's like a download. So you want to download godliness into your life. And that means you want to explore and think of how does Hashem think of me? And what's Hashem's feelings for me? It's like a parent and a child. They want to build a relationship. So you go on a date with your child, or you go on a date with your spouse. And the goal is not to ask for something, it's just to look at each other and to feel, this is amazing that we have a relationship, that the two of us have a relationship. So what davening is about, the whole thing is about our ability to feel Hashem's presence. The whole Psukei de Zimra, you just look at it and you explore, and it's beautiful. It's lethargic, it feels comforting. to feel Hashem's power and presence and how incredible it is that He's in your life. The art of davening is, remember the story with Yaakov? He takes a bunch of stones and then he puts them together and all the stones are fighting. It's one of the most famous kindergarten stories. And all the stones are fighting and they'll become one stone, they'll echad, right? So what's really going on there is that the stones are the building blocks of life. The Sefer Yetzirah says when Hashem created the world, so He used stones. What are the stones? He used letters of creation. A stone is effectively a unit, an experience in your life. And the problem is there's too many units, there's multiplicity in your life. What Yaakov does is, he focuses that there's only one being, and that is Hashem Echad. So you close your eyes and you say, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Every single thing that happens is all a manifestation and an experience of Hashem Echad. Nothing else besides Hashem Echad. And so in every experience you're going to see in life, there's going to be the external of it and the internal of what's really going on. And we Jews have a tremendous power, which is our ability to notice and to see beneath the surface. Every time you look, you're going to see the power of Hashem Echad right under the surface, right in where you are. And every situation that you are, you want to be able to look at from, okay, that's what I see, the external, and then what is it really? How do you do that? By davening every morning. You wake up in the morning and you turn to Hashem and you say, I see all the stones, all the units, and I'm noticing how there's one God, there's one Hashem in everything. That's your power. And Yaakov takes that and he lifts the stone and he picks it up, he puts it erect to be standing up, he pours oil on it, meaning he's going to start living his life, embodying that message. Because Hashem Echad is not a theory, it's actual practice. So he goes into that space of davening, reflects, ponders deeply, meditates on how everything in this world is divine. Everything in this world is Hashem Echad. And he says, Imi Elokim imadi, Hashem is with me. Ushmarani baderech hazeh asher anochi olech, and He protects me and He guards me. V'natani lechem le'echol uveged lilbosh. Then what's going to happen? V'haya Hashem li le'elokim. Strange thing to say. If Hashem is with me, then Hashem is God. And you're like, really? And if not? Meaning if you don't have any food to eat, then you don't believe in Hashem anymore? Fair weathered? No. Hashem and Elokim are two names of God. One is the supernatural. Hashem is miracles. Elokim is nature. V'haya Hashem li Elokim is what you say at the end of Yom Kippur. You say Hashem hu Elokim, Hashem hu Elokim. What are those words? The supernatural and the natural are all one. The greatest miracle that Hashem could ever perform is not the splitting of the sea. That's not nice and fun and it's cute. Not a great miracle. Because, alright, you're God, you can do anything. What's the greatest, most incredible, most powerful, unbelievable miracle Hashem could ever do? You know what it is?
That the sun comes every morning.
Yeah, but we got used to that one.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that
Having a baby is unbelievable. But I want to focus on another one. The greatest miracle is that... What? The greatest miracle is you and the life you are now. Imagine you could live a life stress-free, worry-free, and divine and holy, and experience God every moment of your life. You say, like, what does that even mean? Imagine your life could become unbelievable and incredible and the height of perfection, because we live very flawed lives. And it's very difficult in life. Wouldn't it be amazing if you could just see the power of Hashem manifest and revealed through you? If you would be feeling tranquil, happy, and content, and excited, and connected all day long. What's a greater miracle? That, or splitting of the sea? Right? The problem with the splitting of the sea is Hashem, He can do whatever He wants. This one, well, that involves me. And if Hashem could make me a happy person, and it's still me, like, how do you do that? That's the greatest thing ever. That's V'haya Hashem li Elokim. And Hashem is my God. Elokim is nature, the God of nature. That my life, as I live it, is a holy life. Well, that's how we make miracles. It's unbelievable. It's incredible how to do it. But yes, we can. We can actually get to that space. And the greatest miracle is when you study and you download Hashem's power into your own life. And then Yaakov says, V'shavti v'shalom el beit avi. I'm going to return to my father's house. Who's Yaakov's father? Yitzchak. What's Yitzchak in English?
Laughter.
Laughter. That's the rina. That's the tzchak. Your life is a delight. It's one big Yitzchak. And it's true, you can't experience it now fully. That's why his name is Yitzchak, for the future, as opposed to Tzchok, which is present, even though Tzchok Asali Elokim is why he was named that. But ultimately, you'll only get to feel the delight in the future. But Yaakov's saying, so, like, what's a movie if you don't have a villain? You gotta have a storyline. And that's what's going on in your life. It's the storyline. Every part of your life is exciting, fun, unbelievable, and incredible. And Hashem is watching your life. Because you know that when a bird speaks, if a parrot says, hello, everybody's watching. Like the crowd gets around there. And someone will say, you know, like, he's not even mindful of what he's saying. He doesn't know that that's a word. And everyone gets excited. Because birds don't talk. If a little, when a 1-year-old starts saying a few words, you ever see like the 5-year-old gets jealous because everyone's giving him attention for the 1-year-old? So it's much more exciting when there's a chidush, when there's an innovation, something brand new going on. When an angel is connected to God, that's not exciting. That's okay, good. When you, in your life that you go through, find Hashem and experience a divine connection, oh, that's exciting. And that's what he's saying, V'shavti v'shalom el beit avi. I'll return back to my father's home. Because it's a delight to be in the world of Torah. It's unbelievable, it's so exciting to be in the world of Torah. But it's far more exciting and far more unbelievable to be living a life with all the issues that we face and to find God right there. So Yaakov davens to Hashem, he downloads that message. So he closes his eyes and he says all the stones are all one. Realize this, everything that happens in life, every little event that's transpiring, every blockage is actually echad. All the stones in your life are one. And it's just an exciting life. It's the most unbelievable place to be in. And now we want to activate that. So Yaakov turns around and he's davened and he's okay, let's go back and face it. Haran. The first message is that Yaakov notices that imperfection is perfection. If you're a human being, you look at yourself all the time and you'll see, like we're a bit like, we're like Meshuggah. Like we have all sorts of interesting flaws that we do, and look at your life and see how just weird it is. This morning I drove to the mikveh and took my car, and then I walked back. When I got back, I was like, almost all the way back, I was like, oh man. And then like, okay, so that's little things, little knocks in life that happen, and that's life. Life is just a stress, and you need to laugh about it. And when it's the most stressful moment, imagine you could learn to laugh. How do you learn to laugh? By realizing Yaakov is called the Bariach HaTichon. Yaakov is the middle beam, which means his job is to take Hashem all the way from up and bring him all the way down. So his job goes like this. Avraham was a holy man. He lived in a holy place. He lived in the land of Canaan. He was very holy. He had a 50% rate of success in his children. Yitzchak lived all his life in Eretz Yisrael, literally. Very holy place. He had a 50% rate of success also. Yaakov says, I'm going to do everything the opposite. I'm going to go into the worst place possible to raise kids. I'm going to go right there into the world of ugliness and Haran, all that. And over there I'm going to raise the best kids. It's not, right? When Mashiach comes, Mashiach's army will be stamped, made in the USA. It's not that despite America, it's no, made in the USA, not in China. Meaning, we want to use the experiences that transpire in life and utilize them for the good. The way to do that is realizing this. That imperfection is not imperfect, it's opportunity. And when you mess up and you do stupid things, that's great. That's amazing. Look at yourself and love yourself for what you are, because one of the things we do is we beat ourselves up. Inside, that little guy inside goes, you fool. Why'd you walk home? Don't you realize you took the car so you get there quicker, and now you got to go walk back and get the car. And the stress of the moment, that's harsh. And the little guy inside your head goes crazy, right? Unless you are poised and you understand what the process is. The process is you're supposed to be imperfect. Because if you're an angel, you're not funny. We don't need you. Delight comes from imperfection. So Yaakov sets himself up for imperfection. Notice how in Shemoneh Esrei, when we daven, we say, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, and then? Velokei Yaakov. What's with the vav that you added there? You could have said, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Or you could have said, Elokei Avraham, Velokei Yitzchak, Velokei Yaakov. Why'd you add a vav only by Yaakov? Because the vav, also afterwards, Hakel Hagadol, Hagibor, Vehanora. You add the vav. The vav is this letter which brings things down. It's a long letter, it's a long yud. It's a drawn out yud. The goal of the vav is to bring down. So Avram and Yitzchak remain up. Yaakov's job is to bring Hashem down. There's only one way to bring Hashem down. And that is if you're on the bottom. So whenever you look at your life and you say, fool that you are, and the Meshugana in your head starts beating you up, you tell him back and you say, I'm ready for this. Step one is accept the imperfection as a perfect crafting of Hashem. Hashem made you. How did he make you? He made you with your problems. And your problems are spectacular. So whatever makes you into an imperfect Meshugana, those things are beautiful. And the second you accept that, you say, yes, I'm imperfect, and that's great and amazing. It's a powerful experience to realize that it's okay. You're good. You're good in that space. Yes, you made a mistake. Yes, you said something that was dumb. And that's great and awesome. And accept that Hashem wants my being this way. That's step one. That's a Yaakov. That's recognizing that there's a mission to bring Hashem to Haran. And so you have to go into Haran to bring Hashem there. But step two is to close your eyes and to notice how there's a simulated reality. Everything in this world that happens to you is perfect, as long as you start looking at the perfection, the echad, which is underneath the surface. Now all the stones are one. Now he goes out and he arrives in Haran. What does he do in Haran? So, the first thing he did was he met Rachel. And he says, I want to marry you. And we won't go into that part of the story, but he kissed her right away. My kids were having a discussion the other day. I was overhearing. They skipped those words. Yes. So he met her and he kissed her right away, and then he goes over to Lavan and he tells Lavan, he says, I'll work for you for 7 years. Berachel bitcha haktana. He spelled it out for him. He says, I want Rachel, your daughter, the younger one. He says, absolutely. And then he fooled him after 7 years, and he gave him Leah instead. Now Leah, Vayar Hashem kisnu'a Leah, it says. Leah was a hated wife, and Rachel was a beloved one. But Leah was giving birth to kids. So he married Rachel, by the way, 7 days after he married Leah. Right? He married Leah after 7 years. Then after Sheva Brachas, he married Rachel right away. And then he worked for Rachel afterwards for 7 more years. Yeah. Because if you look at the story, you'll see that Yosef was born. Yosef was 6-year-old when they left. In other words, he tells them, I want to leave now. At the end of the 7 years or 14 years, like I've done, I want to leave. And he already had a Yosef at that point. So it wouldn't have worked if they would have been Yosef was 6 years old when they left after the end of the 6 years. He was born after 14 years and he was there. So that was already, Rachel's whole barrenness took place during those years. So then he worked 14 years and he added 6 more years where he was working and making a lot of money and prospering. Now, all these characters have right, we're going to take a look at it in a figurative sense. Who are the characters of Rachel, Leah, Yaakov, Lavan in your life? They have to be holy characters, even Lavan, because they made it into the Torah. So who are these characters? Let's take a look at them one by one. The first one we're going to look at is Lavan. Now Lavan, if we're going to describe him in the best way possible, he's ADD. Meaning he can't get anything right. Like, he's like, okay, let's decide how to make money. So, v'tachalefet maskurti aseret monim, 100 times. Again, if you work for 6 years, right, and then you keep on switching it, Laban is okay. If the sheep are going to be spotted, that's yours. If they're going to be brown, that's mine. Then no, the next day let's change it this way, change it that way, and all the time he's switching it. Why? Laban's name is white. You ever done experiments of whiteness? White is the color of all colors. When we were in school, they did an experiment, and they took all the colors of the rainbow and put them on a big round sheet of cardboard, put a string through, and then you went zoop, and you moved it real fast, and all the colors started moving fast, and you discover something incredible. That what becomes of all the colors of the bright red, all the Roig Biv colors over there, bright colors, and when you put like all these colors and you swing it, spin it very fast, what becomes of it? White. A beautiful white color comes out of all the colors, because white is the color behind all colors. When Hashem creates the world, it all begins in a white space. Everything is beautiful. All the experiences are one big whiteness, white being purity. At the beginning, it's purity. If you give it to a person over here, that purity, so he starts thinking, he becomes ADD. He starts thinking, okay, I'm happy over here, over there. Let's try this, let's try that. And he keeps on running from one to another to try find his happiness. So Lavan over here, in this world, is not connected to his root, who he truly is. What is Lavan? Lavan is purity. It's not ADD, it's everything is good. Whatever you do is good. When you are Lavan, the way he was over here in this world, he starts understanding, I'm trying to do that. Okay, let's switch, let's do that. And so he becomes confused. But at its root core, Lavan is purity, whiteness, bliss. It's where everything in your life, all the colors and shades of your life are perfection. That's who Lavan is. So the Torah has a pasuk which says, Vayashkem Lavan baboker. Lavan woke up in the morning, and it seems to be like pretty mundane verse. He woke up in the morning. It's actually your life. Every morning, when you wake up, there's a freshness. Nowadays, that freshness lasts about half a second. And then you look at your phone. And as soon as you do, out the window that. But pay attention to that first beautiful, blissful wake-up moment. That's Vayashkem Lavan Baboker. You can extend and expand that moment. On Shabbos, when you don't have a phone, try it out. But try not allowing your brain either. Try just feeling, wow, I woke up, it's incredible. I don't have to do anything actually. Hashem is doing everything for me. It's all from God. And just that moment, before you actually get into the stress, just feel the lavan, the whiteness of your life. You know, like sometimes you think you're actually running the show, and every so often you come to a realization that, yeah, Hashem is running the show. Even when you think you're running the show, He's also running the show. And so Vayashkem Lavan Baboker is the waking up with a whiteness in your life. Now, Lavan has two daughters, Rachel and Leah. Who are Rachel and Leah? Rachel is the pretty one. What makes her beautiful? The Torah tells us she was Yefas Toya, Vifas Mare. She had two levels of beauty. Yefat Toar, Vifat Mar'eh. What's the difference between being Yefas Torah and Yefas Mare? Her son also, by the way, Yosef, was a Yefei Torah, Vifei Mare.
Inside beauty and outside beauty?
What would be inside beauty?
Midos.
Midos, okay. And outside?
Perfect.
Looking beautiful. And why would you think it's important in your life? Why would the Torah be stressing like beauty, physical beauty? Doesn't Mishlei say, Sheker achen vehevel hayofi?
Isn't there sukkim describing how the Mishkan looked and the Beis HaMikdash looked? There is something to having, hearing about something and being beautiful.
Yep. So there's actually two levels of beauty, and we can look at the story in two levels. Level one is, well, how's beauty made? There's two qualities to designing something beautiful. And that is, number one, a human being needs to have the limbs in the correct place. Every limb needs to be designed correctly, aligned. If you have one eye up and one eye down, well, the Torah will tell you that's called a mum, it's called a blemish. It doesn't work. In order to have beauty, the first thing you need is every limb to be aligned in the correct place, right? You can't have one foot bigger than the other one because that doesn't look good. So the first thing is to have the limbs designed in the correct place. If your limbs are designed correctly, then you're ready for part two, which is it's really an undefinable. It's chen. There's just a beauty which is, okay, you could have all the limbs perfect and the beauty just doesn't shine. The spiritual beauty, which is what you mean, I assume, that's Yefas Torah is part one, where the limbs are designed correctly. Yefas Mare is, there's just a shine, a glow from her. In our spiritual lives, we want to have both of those too. Because every one of us is created in the image of Hashem. We are divine beings. We are created b'tzelmeinu, b'tzelem Elokim, which means whatever you are is godly. Look at yourself, and what are you seeing in yourself? You're seeing Hashem. You are a splitting image of the divine. That's why you have 7 emotions, just like Hashem has 7 emotions. In order to have beauty, you got to do 2 things. A, you got to be crystal clear about each emotion of yours, what it is, and align that emotion with Hashem. And that's the second part. Feeling Hashem's presence right there. Here's how you do it. Something we've been discussing lately a lot. So, the midos, the emotions, can lead you astray. Emotions can drive you crazy if you don't know how to experience them. But every emotion is nothing other than an energy. So with negative emotions, it's very easy to see. If you have a negative emotion, you feel anxiety, what should you do? What you should do is walk right into it. Don't walk away from it. Walk right into it. If you feel the anxiety, look at yourself and recognize and say, okay, I'm right now feeling this anxiety. And you got it, and you feel it, and you sit with that emotion clear. And then you look and you say, and Hashem is with me in this moment. I give myself over to God right now. It's hard work because it's like constantly you have to keep on doing it. But when you keep on doing it, you are designing the beauty that's aligning you with Hashem. That's what it means that Rachel was Yefas Toyar Vifas Mare. You take the midah, you take the emotion that you feel, you crystallize your emotion, and then you draw Hashem's power in. How? Yisrael betach b'Hashem. You feel Hashem's presence in this moment. Note how every conversation that 2 people are having is an energy going on, and that energy is blocking the 2 of you from talking. Because, like you're trying to get that out of them, and they're trying to get this out of you, and so there's lack of shalom bayis. And when a person puts their feeling right on the table, this is what I'm feeling, and you recognize for yourself, even though I'm feeling this, right? Like someone hurts you in a conversation. You know what the best method to respond is?
To say that.
You just say, don't say you hurt me.
I'm hurt.
Say nothing.
Try a little different. That hurt. I'm hurt. What are you? Why are you a little baby? That hurt is a fact. Now when you recognize the hurt and then you allow Hashem to take you over, you see what's happening? You're becoming beautiful. Beauty. Because a beauty is a person who's just present with you. There's a human being over here. When you talk to human beings, you'll see all the time, you're talking to people who are wounded, scared, afraid. You'll see all the time, people have these feelings that drive you to sugar.
What are the 7 emotions?
Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, which are love, awe, compassion, etc. So it's noticing your emotion and then allowing the power of Hashem to enter into you. Yaakov wants to marry a Rachel. He sees a person who is Yifas Toyar, Yifas Mari. She's got this beautiful, she's gorgeous spiritually. He sees a human being. She's present over there, and he sees every emotion of hers is perfectly aligned with Hashem. And that's what he loved. Rachel is Hashem revealed. Rachel is when you live a life and you experience revelations. You know what Leah is? Leah is exactly the same as Rachel. She's just the same as Rachel, except that she's hiding. She does it in a concealed way. Rachel's beauty is revealed. Leah's beauty is concealed. Most of us live with a Leah, not a Rachel. It means when we go to a shir, we study about, okay, this is how you're supposed to be with Hashem, and you get it, and you're supposed to have emunah, and you feel God's presence, and it's wonderful, and we have a lot of good theories. Leah has a lot of children. In theory, you can have a lot of kids, a lot of results. The trouble is the practice, the actual work when it comes to real life. In real life, Rachel can't have children. Rachel is barren. So Yaakov is married to both Leah and Rachel. Again, who's Yaakov? Yaakov is a human being, you're going out into the world, and you're experiencing experiences all the time. And you set out on a mission, and you daven in the morning, you get ready, I'm ready for Hashem Echad, I'm ready to bring one God into this world. And then you notice people who are connected. And you see such beautiful, wonderful, incredible energy on them. They don't get phased, they don't get moved this way or that way. They're present, they're human beings. It's like the bear who knows when you meet a bear in the forest, what do?
There we go.
You look at him in the eye and you stand and you just don't budge and you look at him. And then you're going to feel scared, like get out of here, and you let the fear run through you and you say, no, I'm not running away, because then the bear's going to see a piece of meat to eat. So you look at him in the eye and you got to hold your ground. Human beings are no different. When human beings approach you and they want to devour you, which happens all the time, whenever you talk to another human being, there's an energy between you and the other person. And what you want to do is be able to stand your ground. That's the beauty of Rachel. Yaakov sees Rachel and he says, she's magnificent. And he wants to draw her into him. He wants to get the power in. That's what a kiss is. It's a sucking energy. Right? The kiss, which is Vayishak Yaakov leRachel. He wants to draw her power into him. And he wants to be married to her. Married to her means, wouldn't your life be amazing if you were just married to Rachel? If you're married to someone who just is beautiful all the time, midas are just unbelievable. What would Shalom Bayis look like? Stunning. Everything's amazing. Meaning, even when things go wrong, it's like, I feel this is problematic, and back to center. That's what Yaakov wants to marry. But he ends up marrying Leah. Why? Because theory is great. Leah is Einei Leah Rakois. Right? She was also beautiful. Leah is the mother of many more tribes than Rachel. Leah is much more the mother than Rachel. But what's Leah? She's the hiddenness. Theory. Theory is great. So you go learn about it, and then comes the activating process. And so the reality is that when Lavan is this holy energy, when the holy energy, what comes out of it is a Leah. He says, you marry Leah. And Leah has children. And children are all the feelings. She has 6 feelings come out of her. All the emotions that Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, all those. They're coming out. It's like, great, it's theory. And Rachel just can't do it. Ever had that experience? You know, you learned in the shir what you're supposed to do. You get how you're supposed to be and supposed to feel. But it's so difficult. But Rachel, Akara. Rachel is barren. She can't give birth. It takes a long time before Rachel is able to give birth. Yaakov works all 7 of his emotions to marry Leah. Then he worked another 7 to experience Rachel. And then she started having kids. And she has this kid called Yosef. You know what Yosef was? Yosef means to add. He's going to continue the work of Yaakov. He goes even worse. He gets the much more difficult place than Yosef, than Yaakov does. Because he's going to carry Hashem even further. So Yaakov is fighting all the time inside him. You know Yaakov has a fight with the angel all night long. Have you ever fought an angel? Of course you do. All the time. The angel is that force in your head. You know, back in the shtetl, the angel, I don't know what power he could have had in the shtetl. Because how much opportunity did you have? You had your 50 friends, and you couldn't go anywhere. There were no weddings to go to. When there was a wedding, it was the biggest thing in the world. And then when the next shtetl came to here, and the guy was like amazing. And there was nothing, there were no worries in life. And today, we live in a stressed environment because we're in the world shtetl. And so you know about everyone and everything, and the angel in your head, that negative little guy in your head who screams at you all the time, is in Yaakov's head. Step 1, you walk into the Haran, you say, okay, I'm stressed, and I need Hashem's help. So you go back, turn around, and you go into Hashem's presence, and you feel, wow, Hashem Echad is everything, even in my life. And that takes meditation. Focus on your davening. Allow Hashem to experience God in your life. Feel the dveikus of Hashem's presence in your life. The more you daven, the longer you daven, the more you get to feel God in your life. But then you don't shy away. You go right into the stress. He goes right back to Haran. He meets Rachel and he realizes some amazing thing. That your best place to be in is right in Haran. There's no better place you can grow in than Haran, because there you will find your Rachel and your Leah. Leah is the theory, a lot of good experiences. And what's Rachel? Rachel is divine powers. Yefas Terah, Yefas Mare, all the beauty. Every emotion of yours that you feel, that's the Haran experience. Every emotion you experience is asking you to align it with Hashem. So he works to get married to Rachel. He worked for 14 years for Rachel. And Leah is what happened. Leah is the inner experiences. Whenever you feel a stress, what you want to do is align yourself with Hashem. It's known as let go. Let go. Shlomo HaMelech, when he describes the scene of Yaakov going down to Haran, he says the following verse in Shir HaShirim. He says, Im lo ted'ilach hayafa banashim. Yafa banashim, who is that? The most beautiful of all women? Rachel. Im lo seid'ilach hayafa banashim. If it's not working for you, if it's difficult for you to experience Hashem's presence all the time, here's what you should do. Tzeilach. Let go. You're not in control, and you don't need to be in control. You just need to pretend and do the next step. Tzeilach be'ikvei hatzon. Go out in the footsteps of the sheep, Shlomo HaMelech says. What is the sheep? The tzon. Yaakov worked with the tzon all this time. Shalom Rubashkin has a very powerful, incredible line in his book. He says, what's the difference between living behind bars versus living above bars? And he describes the following scene. Pesach night, Leila Seder. He says, Erev Pesach is supposed to be busy. There's like preparations. He says, we ain't got no preparations in prison. Nothing to do. Because we can't make food. The food's going to be brought in. And he says, I cleaned my cell for Pesach. He's like, you know how long B'dikas Chametz takes? He like describes the cell. He said, you just stand in one place and you can turn around without moving and you finish the whole B'dikas Chametz. That's how much there was to do. And like at night he says, you know what it's like hiding your own pieces of chametz? He describes so beautifully like the scene in a Jewish home where the kids go hiding the chametz and then you got to go searching for it. And he's like, I'm hiding the chametz myself and I'm trying to find good hiding places, but there are none. So okay, that was B'dikas Chametz. And then the next day, and they were able to get a fire. It was incredible. And then comes Leila Seder. So Leila Seder, they were allowed to be in the chapel. So I'm gathering all the Jews together. He's like, the first year that I was there was just a few Jews. After a while, they started having a minyan. But most Jews didn't understand. So it's okay, so I'm leading a Seder for them. So he's going to describe what the Seder table looks like. You have to be done by 10:30, number one. 10:30 is lockdown. So you're going to be finished the Seder by 10:30. Now, the room has absolutely no decorations. It's bare walls, just these like cement walls, brick. And there's a table in the middle, a simple trestle table with a few bare chairs around. There's a simple tablecloth, like a see-through tablecloth on it. And then you have the food. Light one little lamp in the middle of the room. That's it. So it looks dingy, dark, it looks desolate, not the kind of place you want to be in. It's like I walk into the room and what do you think I'm starting to feel? When 100 miles away, right now, my children and my family are sitting down to a Seder. And they're having a beautiful Seder with everything beautiful, except for one thing. They had seats empty. So I'm feeling a bit of a tug and nostalgia for what was in years gone by and how beautiful it was. And I'm feeling a yearning to be with my family. And then I realize that if I feel that feeling is called bondage. That's avdut. That feeling, which appears to be so holy and so beautiful and so special, is slavery. I asked myself a question, he says. Is Hashem happy with the Seder I'm doing now? Is there anything missing halachically from my current Seder? Like 1 year, there was a zroya that was missing. So on the table, there's 6 items on the kaira. There was no zroya. So he says, I don't know what to do. So I go over to the chaplain, who was an African-American gentleman, big guy. I tell him, chaplain, I need a shank bone of I need the gorgala from the chicken. And he looks at me and says, come on, Rubashkin, you're in prison, you got 5 out of 6, like what's the big deal? And I'm trying to describe to him that you don't understand, I'm desperate. I need that chicken neck, please. And I beg him, he says, you know what, fine. And so he goes back, he goes to the camp. The camp was the prison next door. Over there were a lot of Jews. And they were making their own Seder. It was a much different kind of Seder. He goes back, an hour later he comes back, and I got my shank bone. He says, when he saw the absolute euphoria, you know what it's like getting a zroya when you thought you wouldn't have one? He's like, I felt like I just won the lottery. It was the most unbelievable feeling. The guy was like, wow, it's amazing. And he couldn't believe that there's a prisoner in prison who's ecstatic and a euphoria from a zroya. I sat down, he says, to the Seder, and I decided to focus on one thing. Hashem is absolutely ecstatic with me right now. I am experiencing divine revelation in this current moment. Wow. There's nothing better that could be than this moment. And for that moment, instead of being behind the bars that are being created for me, I did my nostalgia. I cried for what was. I cried for my inability to be with my family. I dropped the cry and I said, okay, tz'ilach bi kveyatzon. Get out of yourself. A Jew has a special power. We don't let go. Let go. What do you do if you don't have Judaism in front of you? So you let go, and then what? Now you do nothing. Let go, and then realize how much of Hashem is available right in front of you. We don't actually know how to let go. What do you mean to let go? You're a human being. You've got to be doing something. Grab a mitzvah that's in front of you. Take a look at how many incredible and unbelievable experiences there are in this Haran world. It's a world of anger and sorrow and suffering and grief and so much going on. It's also the place that Hashem chose for Torah and mitzvahs to be able to be performed. Shlomo HaMelech looks at the story of Lavan, and let's capture the story. Yaakov has a dream, a vision. He realizes that as much as I want to be in the spiritual world of learning and study, Hashem wants me to be out there. So he faces the imperfection, the perfection of imperfection. How beautiful I am as a human being that God chose me. The talking bird, that's what I am. He goes out, he feels the stress. He says, I can't handle this right now. Turns around, goes back to Hashem. Hashem, I notice how everything is divine. I notice how everything is special. Goes right back into the world, looks around and he sees, wow. Every time I fall, every time I have a stress in this world, everything over there, when I feel miserable, I can bring Hashem right into that space. That's the Rachel, the beauty of Rachel. Because a beautiful person is one who contrasts. On one hand, you're feeling down, and every midah, it's beautiful. And you find the stunning elegance of beauty if in every single experience you can feel it, flip it, and find Hashem. He marries Rachel, he marries Leah. He works for them all his 7 midas, all his 7 emotions. He realizes there's theory, that's Leah, there's practice, that's Rachel. They come from Lavan, they come from the beautiful whiteness of Hashem. And then he works for 6 more years. What are those 6 years? With the craziness of Lavan. The craziness of your life is opportunity to reveal Hashem in the 6 Sidrei Mishnah. That's the 6 years. 7 emotions times 2. Theory, practice, Leah, Rachel. And then there's a 6 Shisha Sidrei Mishnah. Everything in your life, when you're ready to see Hashem, I feel your presence, look for the next opportunity. It's in front of you. There's a mitzvah, there's an opportunity in front of you, and rejoice. Look at how exciting it is to find Hashem. Every little place in this world, every nook and cranny in this world contains an opportunity for chesed, for a mitzvah, for Torah study, for drawing Hashem into this world. And when you realize that, your life becomes an absolute joy. It's like, wow. So at the end of the story, what happens? Lavan tells Yaakov, he says, listen here. Habanot bnotai abanim banai ve'abanot bnotai. Everything is mine. Everything in your life is white. Kol asher ata ro'eh lihu. This is the holy Lavan talking. Every experience in your life is Lavan. That's what Lavan says. It's all beautiful. And now Lavan says, Lavan goes away. Ve'Yaakov alach ledarko. Ve'Lavan shav limkomo. Yaakov goes out on his journey. What's the journey? The journey of life. The journey of everything is white. I got that experience. I got it. I got the realization. Once I got the realization, I get out into the world and I realize how powerful that is. Yaakov discovered the joy of going back to Beit Avi, to my father's home, to the beauty and joy of everything that is life. Why? Because the chet is when you look down and you say, oh my gosh, all I see is problems. Like I see my life and I can only have one opening and it's stress. You look down, it's usually stress. But when you open up a little hole in your stress and the chet turns into a hey, what's that little hole? The place where you are, the charan that you're in. If you open up a little hole and you start seeing Hashem in your life and you pay attention to how perfect your imperfection is, and you notice how every little experience in life is the relationship of a revelation of Hashem Echad, And I'm experiencing Hashem Echad right here. Every emotion I have, it's wow, opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. I understand, there's theory, there's practice. And you start seeing how everything is whiteness, and there's mitzvahs, opportunities everywhere in your life. Then your life becomes a holy endeavor, a holy place to be in. And suddenly the very charan that you were in a moment ago is nothing short of rina. Because you're just a talking bird. You're causing delight to Hashem. Your life is delightful. Switch the understanding of it. Instead of looking down only, say, okay, I'm stressed. Hashem, are you there? Wow, Hashem, you believe that this is amazing. You know what happens when you do that? You actually experience a rina. In other words, you get out of the stress. Because when you tracht gut, and you feel good about yourself and your presence, you'll see miracles. Vitzah gut. Hashem problems are not solved over there. Hashem allows us to solve problems over here. When you allow yourself to be in that good space of rina over here, you'll see rina in the world around you. Because the world's a gorgeous, stunning, beautiful place, as long as you give it full attention.